Hello again everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the inventory and crafting system for an RPG or survival style game in Unreal Engine 4. Today I hope to get the player character able to pick up items, and we'll add them to the inventory and see if we can get any further. Without further ado, let me reintroduce myself as Insomnia from Unreal Tech, a division of Blender Tech, and welcome to another video. If you learned something, consider liking the video and consider subscribing for more videos. And lastly, don't forget our motto, create your way. So with that said, let's get started on part 2. Let's hop right into the first person character class and get to work. So in the last video, we set up two functions and a variable. So we set up max use distance, and we set up trace item, which will use a ray trace to hit an item and store it in a variable so that we can interact and do stuff with it. And we also added the function add to inventory, so which will take the ray trace, aka the line trace item that we stored in that variable, and then we'll add it to an inventory array with all of its details and then destroy the item. So let's fill out these functions. So let's start off with trace item. This is a pretty standard ray trace that we'll be doing. So we're going to do a line trace by channel. We'll connect these up, start that in a corner, get that all nice and clean. So we need a start and end. So we want to start at the first person camera. So that's obviously where our crosshairs start. And we want to get world location, drag off the first person camera, get forward vector. And then after, so this is the starting one, so that can go straight to start. So it's going to start at the location of the first person camera, so front and center, right where our crosshairs are. And it's going to end straight ahead where we're looking at our max use distance. So what we need to do is take the get forward vector, take the return value, and type in an asterisk for multiply. We want to go vector times float. And then we want to take this, we want to add, so type in the plus symbol, we want a vector plus vector. So we want to add this to this result to our starting vector. And we want that the other way around. And then we'll plug this one into our end. And then in here, you could type your value in, but to make everything dynamic and easily editable, we're going to take max use distance and plug it right into there. I like to try to keep everything clean and readable, but compact also. For now, I'm going to set draw debug type to persistent, or sorry, for duration will work for this, so that we can debug and make sure ignore self is on. And then what we want to do is we want to take the hit, and we could just split the struct pin here, which I like to do sometimes, but since we're going to be breaking a lot of structures, we'll just get used to dragging out and typing in break so that we can break the struct. So we break the hit result, and we're going to do a branch. And so coming off of this branch, the condition is going to be the return value, and this return value is did you hit anything or not. So so true is a hit and false is no hit. What we need to do is we need to create a variable. So add a new variable, and we'll just call it, say, trace. No, we'll say actor traced. Since I was going to do item traced, but technically we could use this to trace any actor, so that could be anything in the game, a pawn, like a character, anything. So I'll just say actor traced because its variable type is going to be an actor reference. With that variable, what we want to do is we want to set it, so drag it out while holding down Alt so that we set it. So we want to take actor traced to hit actor. So whatever actor the line trace, the ray trace hits, will get stored in actor traced. However, if we don't hit anything, then we want to do the same thing. We want to set actor traced, but we want to set it to nothing, just like that. Alrighty, so we'll bring this one over, comment, so we trace from our view out to length of max use store the hit actor in actor traced. Alrighty, cool. So compile and save, and we will go back to the event graph and let's test that. So I commented this is all the stock. So what we want to do is we want to add a way to test that. And so we might as well go ahead now and go to edit, project settings, and under input we want a new action mapping. So hit the plus sign. You can read what an action mapping does up here if you don't know. But anyways, we want interact. We want that to be E. E is a very standard use key, but of course you could choose any key you want. So interact is going to be E. So we can close that off, and in our first person character event graph, we will whoa, my mouse is going crazy. We will right click and we'll type interact, and you'll see action events interact. So when pressed, we want to call the trace item function. And won't do anything right now other than store it in actor traced, but we will be able to see the trace. Excuse me, so let's try it out. So let's hit play and let's just hit E. And as you can see, it shows us the trace that we did. So that works perfectly. Awesome. So with that, we can actually use it now. So when we press E, we want to do our trace, which stores it into the variable, and then we want to add that variable to inventory. So we want to call our add to inventory function. However, we haven't set that function up yet. So open up our add to inventory function. And so what we want to do is we want to drag in actor traced as a get. So hold down control and drag it in. So we want to get actor traced, take actor traced. We want to cast our actor traced, which will be just a regular actor. So an actor can be casted. Did I say trace? Casted into another actor class. So BP. Okay, sorry guys, so all I had to do was go into BP item master and hit compile for some reason. So now, back into add to inventory, we can drag off actor traced, cast to BP item master. So that's gonna cast whatever actor we traced to into BP item master. Now the cast, if it fails, doesn't matter, so we don't want a debug string. We want to take item master, however, and we want to get item data structure, so the struct that we made, and we want to break that. And after that, we want to, well, first of all, we're going to need to create another new variable called inventory, since this is add to inventory. And the inventory variable is going to be an array of our structure, so s underscore item data. And with that variable made, we can now drag it as a get. So hold down control and drag it in. So we have our inventory array, and we want to drag off that and type add. So we want to add after we cast to the inventory array. And what do we want to add? Well, we want to make a structure item data, and we want to just plug all of these in. Perfect. Now something very important I'm going to bring up here, and I'm in fact going to leave a comment here. I make a comment right here, hold down C and click, and you get a comment. I want to make this bright red. I want it to be known and made clear that anytime we add a new variable to s item data struct, we need to come to this function and connect the new wires for it to function. Let me show you an example just because this is very important. So I'm going to compile and save. However, now if I took our item data structure, if I added a new variable called item health, when we go back there is now a new one, but it doesn't automatically connect it because it doesn't, well, obviously it's not going to assume that you just want to have that in your when you make it. So if you do, which you most likely would, you'll need to come in and reconnect this and recompile it every time you go and add a new part to your structure. But I'm going to delete that since we're not working with item health right now. But I just want to make that very clear. So that's compiled and saved. So now that should work just like it. We can comment that when the player presses the interact button, it traces to where we are looking and stores the hit actor in our inventory. That is not going to do anything visually in its own. All that's doing is the logic right now. So we need to go a little bit further, obviously. Sorry, I'm forgetting something very important. After we add it to our inventory, we want to destroy it. So destroy actor. And the actor we want to destroy is the actor that we targeted, the one that we traced. So that way it looks like we picked it up because it gets destroyed. Let's find out if this is working or not. Compile and save. So BP item master, that's our master class. So let's right click, create blueprint based on this. And let's go back to the editor and rename that as BP underscore, whatever your naming convention is. I'm gonna call this box. We'll have a box, BP box. So let's edit that. Actually, let's just add component cube and compile and save. And then go to class defaults and let's give it some details. So item name will be a box. We'll just say box. Its weight we'll say is 5 kilograms. Pretty heavy box. Item details. This is a cube shaped box that can do many things. It's a great box. And thumbnail. I don't have one, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna open up MS Paint and we're gonna get a 128 by 128 image. You know what? I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna zoom in on our cube. I'm gonna turn off the grid. I'm gonna go Control Alt print screen to get an actual picture of it. Go back into Paint and then I'm gonna paste that. I'm gonna zoom out and get the cube picture. I'm gonna select it and copy it. And then I'm just gonna resize that to 128 by 128. Turn off maintain aspect ratio, 128 by 128. There, perfect, that's our box. So I'm gonna file save as PNG, save it to your directory that you're working in. So go find your image and drag it into your content browser. We'll make a new full folder. Whoops, not in here. Well, it doesn't matter. Make a new folder called thumbnails. Or we could even go item thumbnails. So I'm going to find that file and I'm going to drag it right into there. So we can go into our box item and now we can give it an actual thumbnail. Thumb box. Perfect. So we have its name, weight, details, and thumbnail. And it's got a mesh. So compile and save. We can drag it into the level now. Oops, I just totally replaced that material. That was dumb. We want to take our blueprint, that is. Perfect. Let's play. And now let's aim at it and press E. And there you go, it disappears. But how do we know if it was added to our inventory or not? Well, we can test that very quickly by going into first person character, and before destroy actor, what we can do is we can do a print string, we can do a debug, and what we'll print string is this is the return value, so this is the item that we got, so get, and we want to get from the inventory array, and we get that specific item, break item data, get the item name, and print that string, and then destroy the actor. So this is just a debug. File and save, and we'll play one last time. So hit E and we should get the item name in the top left corner. Box. Perfect. So technically a box is in our inventory. Just wanted to make sure that it does work. In fact, I forgot to comment this. And destroy the actor. that function is done. So compile and save. So let's get the GUI actually working then. So we'll just make sure that's compiled and saved. And let's go into the GUI folder and inventory and open up widget inventory main. And so what we want to do now is start getting this to actually work. So first of all, let's go to the graph. Now we need to access all this data from our character, the inventory. Yeah, the inventory is it for now. So in our widget inventory main, to access that data, we'll need to cast to it. So we want an event on construct. So basically this is like an event begin play, but for widgets. So it's whenever this widget is created, do this, but only once. What we want to do is cast to first person character, and we want to cast into first person character get player controller. Sorry, I think that'll work, but get player character. And just to make sure it works, we'll do a print string. That way we'll know where to look if that cast does indeed fail, but it should be fine. And then what we want to do is, as first person character, we want to right click and promote that to a variable. And we'll name that 1p car for first person character. That way we can reuse this first person character variable over and over and over. So we'll just comment this. There's other ways to do this, but casts are actually the most efficient way to do it. And next, what we need to do is we want to fill our inventory with a list of items. Now we could go ahead and just add text for every single inventory item that says the item's name, but that only works so far. It would make a great prototype, but it's not very dynamic. We want this setup to be as dynamic as possible, and we want it to work well with our crafting system when we get there. So what we're going to do is go back to the editor, and in the inventory we want to right click, we want to create a new widget, user interface widget blueprint, widget, so w underscore, and this is going to be inv, it'll be a button. Yeah, it'll be something you click on, so we'll go in button. And so in here, what we want to do is we want to add a button. We need something that will, so get rid of the canvas panel. We'll use a vertical box. That should work. So add a vertical box to the root, and then a button. There we go, that goes all the way across. And then add text onto the button, and we want it to be justified to the left, and we can just set that to item name goes here, just like before, because we know that's going to get changed dynamically. And I want to set the opacity of this button very low. I'll leave it a little bit visible so I can show you why. So go to background color and set the opacity to like 0.25 maybe. Yeah, so that it's see-through, but we can still tell it's a button, but we'll change that after. I'll show you why. So anyways, compile and save that. And then in its graph, we want to add a new variable called, I'm going to call it first person car underscore button, just so that I don't get confused. And that one will also be a first person character object reference, which we will set. So compile and save that. Back in the widget inventory main, what we want to do is, again, make sure your scroll box inventory list is a variable. Go into the graph, and so on event construct, after we cast, what we want to do is do a for loop. All you can do is just hold down F and click, and you get a for each loop. So we want to do a for each loop. Drag that out. So what we want to do is drag off first person character. In fact, that's new to blueprints, but we'll use it. Drag off of that, just because it's right here, it's handy, and type in get inventory, and we'll plug that right into the array that we're going to do a for each loop of. So for each item in the inventory, we want to well, the loop body. So what it will do for each one, we want to create widget, and the widget we want to create is the one we just made, which is the inventory button. And off that return value, we want to drag off and set first person character button. We want to set that to that value we casted, first person character. So we want to set that to first person character. So take first person character and do a getter and connect that up. And I'm forgetting something. Going back to the button, we also need a new variable called s_item data. That structure, we need to set that in here too, and that will be an s_item data structure. So compile and save that and go back to the inventory main widget. And we also want to drag off here, and we want to set that one as well. So set s_item data, and we want to set that to the array element. So take the array element, as you can see, it's an s_item data structure, and drag that all the way over to the setter. And it can be quite hard to see this. So what I like to do is use reroute nodes and then drag it in, so it doesn't get lost in the mess here. This will become messy very fast. So we want to connect these execution wires. And then what we want to do is, with that widget created, we want to add child. So type in add child, and it won't show up. So you need to turn off context sensitive. You want panel add child. You don't want any of these other ones. You want just a regular add child. And the target, so the target that we want to add, what we want to add a child to, is our Scrollbox inventory list. So, and the content is going to be the button we created. So take the return value of that. I'm going to actually reroute that one too. So reroute. So that's basically saying, what are we adding as a child? And then we'll just make ourselves a little debug string, print string. Perfect. So compile and save that. And we will comment it out. First, we want to test it though. So let's go back to our first person character, and let's create a way to actually open the inventory. So the same way we set up the interact input action, let's go to project settings. So edit, project settings, input, action mappings, plus let's type in open inv for inventory. We'll set that to a key. How about I for inventory? What we want to do now is right click, open inv, the action event, and we'll probably move this to the HUD class after. We're just doing this for testing. When we press it, we want to create widget. Actually, let's just do a flip flop. That way we can open and close it for right now. First time we press it, we want to create a widget. The widget we want to create is our inventory main, our inventory screen. The owning player is get player controller. Since we're not in a HUD or widget class, I believe you need that, if I'm not mistaken. And then the return value, we just want to drag off and type add to viewport, just like we did when we were testing in the HUD class, and I'll connect it for you. B, so that'll be the next time you press I, or the input action, open inventory, we want to remove from parent, and that won't show up, so we have to turn off context sensitive. And the target is the return value of the widget that we created, so we'll remove it from the screen. So compile and save. Let's give this a test. Let's hit play. First, let's test if our inventory opens. Let's hit I. You can see all items added to inventory because there is none. And as you can see, our inventory opens just fine. And when we hit I again, it closes. So let's try adding an item. So let's take our box and hit E to add it to the inventory. Press I to open the inventory. And as you can see, we got a button. Item name goes here. So it added it to the inventory, but we didn't get its name. So let's quickly finish the video off by setting that up. So go to the inventory button widget. So as you can see, it added it just fine. The logic worked, but we got item name goes here. So we're gonna create our first binding. If you've never done a widget binding before, it's very easy. All you do is you take the text here and you'll see it has bind beside it. You can bind almost anything in here. So press the bind button and press create binding, and it will create a function. And so what it's doing is now it's saying the return value is what that text will get set to. So if I set it to item name goes here, we would see no change. You also notice that the function is called getText0. We need to rename that to something or else we'll get lost. So let's set it to item name setter, or more of a getter. So what we want to do is we want to drag in the item data structure as a getter. We want to break it. Then we want to take the item name and drag it to the return value, so it'll cast a string to a text. Compile and save. And so since in the main widget we set item data to whatever the structure is for this specific element that we're using in the inventory array, we're setting it in there for each button. It'll dynamically get the item name when it's created and set it. So let's test that out. So now when we get that box and hit I, as you can see, we have a box in our inventory. Now this is where I was talking about the button. As you can see, it leaves us with a gray, and I find that quite ugly. In fact, we need it to be a button so that we can click on it to get its details, but I don't like the fact that we can see it. I like it to be completely transparent. So set the alpha to 0, compile and save, play, E to pick up, I, and there you go. Now it's still a box. As you can see, we can still click on it, but that way it's more of a list like it should be. It's a list of buttons, but we just aren't able to see the button. However, later, maybe in an extra bonus lesson, we'll make so that the selected item is actually, it changes color, and that way it has a bit more, I don't know what you want to call it, a bit more flourish to it. Anyways, so let's quickly just test that with a couple different items. So let's go to actor and BP item master, right click, create blueprint based on this. Let's rename that to BP sword. Let's add a static mesh. Sorry, I forgot I didn't add starter content. Let's add a cylinder. And let's resize that to 0.1 by 0.1. Unlock this by 1. So that'll be our sword for now. Then go to class defaults as before. We'll say sword. Its weight will be 2.5 kilograms. This sword is very sharp and good for slashing and hacking. We don't have a thumbnail, so we'll just use the box thumbnail. I won't waste time creating another one. You saw how to do that. I might import some next time. So compile and save. And drag our sword in. And let's see what happens. Let's see if we can pick both of them up. So we'll pick up our box. We'll pick up our sword. We'll open our inventory. And there you go. We have a box and a sword. And let's just quickly test. Let's create 3 swords and 2 boxes. I'll pick up a box, 2 swords, then a box, then a sword. So as you can see, we have box, sword, sword, box, sword, just like I picked it up. Now, this works for some games. However, most games you want it so that some items, like a sword, would work like that, but things like, say, if you were building a survival game, you would want things like, say, I don't know, sticks to be able to do what's called item stacking. And that's basically so that all of, let's say our boxes were allowed to stack, then we would have 2 boxes, sword, sword, sword. Or if for some reason you wanted it to be able to have your swords to stack, you would have 3 swords, box, box. Or if you wanted both to stack, you would have 2 boxes and 3 swords. So we'll make sure that we add that in the coming videos. So anyways, now we're actually getting some logic in there. Some stuff is actually working. So these videos, like I said, are quite long. This is quite an in-depth tutorial. But now we actually have a working inventory that adds children widgets. So let's comment this out before I leave us off here and let you know what we'll be doing next. So basically what we do is we get the current inventory array, and then we'll take this whole thing and we'll take this whole thing, since it's a loop, and comment it for each item in the inventory. Should be for each actor technically, but for each item in the inventory, create a widget for it, set its variables, most importantly s item data, then add it to the scroll box inventory list widget container. So that's what this whole little bit does here, and we could functionize it, but we will be doing some major modifications. And we don't need that debug string since we know that it works. So there. So now that that's out of the way, we have everything set up to start actually making our inventory get item information. So in the next video, we will set it up so that when we click on one of these, what it does is, and I'm gonna get rid of the fact that we can still do that, and the fact that we need to hit Shift F1 to get our cursor. I'm gonna fix that too, show you how. But so that when we actually click on one of these items, it sets all these details as well as the picture. And we will also set it up so that when you open the inventory, like I said, you can do all this, but if you notice, we can also move around. So we'll set it up so that if you don't want that in your game, because not only is that hard to see, but that's kind of unrealistic. In real life, would you be able to like go through your backpack as you're walking? Well, I'll show you how to set it up so that you can stop player movement while the inventory screen is open, and we'll move that to the HUD as well, where it should be. So anyways, that is it for this video. I think, yeah, so we'll leave it off there. We now have an actual functioning inventory, and now you know how to create children items. So make sure everything's saved. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video, where we actually set all the item details in the screen when you click on one of the items buttons. And then we'll move on to item stacking, and then our inventory will be done and we can go on to the crafting. So thanks for watching from the team here at Unreal Tech, a division of BlenderTech.com. If you enjoyed this video and learned something, please like it. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. We're on social media, and the links on your screen. If you disliked this video for some reason, please tell us why so we can continually improve based on your community input. We also take requests, so we'll see you next time. Remember, create